Should your agent or manager turn down a possible job offer for you as a performer without first talking to you about it? Now, I realize, having been in this business for over 25 years, that this is not a simple topic. And this is potentially a controversial topic depending on who's the one answering it. And that's a really good thing. I think discourse is incredibly important. And it's through discourse that we can create better communication and understanding. And for me, that's the gig. So the first thing I want to say is one of my favorite quotes by Werner Erhard is that love is a function of communication. And I agree with it 100%. So I'm committed to creating a world where we're living in a world where clear and effective communication takes place between more people, because love is a function of communication. So clearer communication, more love. I'm all about creating more love. And I know most of you are too. Also, I'm committed to a world where people choose integrity as a natural self-expression. And we'll talk about integrity more another time, because integrity, I think the meaning of integrity has gotten radically collapsed with other things. However, I believe that clear, effective communication is a fundamental part of integrity. So that's all the background of this conversation as it applies in this case to performers, their agents and managers, and job offers. So my purpose and intention with this particular conversation is to create clear and effective communication within our industry between all parties in our industry, and to demystify more about the casting process for many performers. One of the greatest notes I got after going live last time was how much performers appreciated me demystifying an element of the job that they knew nothing about or wondered about or was in their way when wanting to do their best work or what have you. So that's really my purpose in doing this live as well. Main goal is all of us experiencing more and deeper fulfillment in our careers. And again, I feel that clear communication is the access to that. So back to the original question. And you all know how I feel about the word should. So I hesitated to even use it at all because there's no should. And I think that's really also the point of this conversation. Should your agent or manager turn down a possible job opportunity before they even talk to you about it? Okay, so let's start with why I chose to talk about this today. So I was on the phone just a couple days ago with a casting colleague of mine, a good friend who also does what I do. We both do a lot of commercial area casting. And she had a very specific situation, which I will give you the framework of. So she was casting a print job. Agents submitted models for said print job. She selected who to bring in. The print job, as usual, was put out saying how much it paid, for what length of time, whether there was a conflict, which in this case there wasn't, all the things that go out with a job. And she chose who to bring in for auditions. She held those auditions. She sent those auditions to her client. That's what we do. Client comes back, and she knows that her client is really liking certain people because those are the lists we get, who the client really likes as we head towards either bookings or a callback. Simultaneously, this casting director gets a note from a certain model's agent saying, we submitted this model for your job. Well, another agent did, and they forgot to put an overscale note on the submission. So we're going to go back to that in a minute because this is really important, people. And that was a big mistake, and I don't remember whether they fired the agent or just had a stern talking. I think they might have let the agent go. But what the agent wanted the casting director to know is, even though the model had already come in, been submitted, and come in, auditioned, and been sent to the client, that model would no longer be able to be considered for the job based on the parameters of the job and the finances of the job unless the client was willing to pay 18 times the amount the job was advertised at. 18 times the amount the job was advertised at. So this puts us as casting directors in a very difficult position. It's one thing when things happen just between us and talent, us and representation. But once we send auditions to our clients and our clients see people, they fall in love with people. And I don't know that there's any worse position for a casting director than to show a client someone they cannot have. It's bad. We try to avoid it at all costs. So the casting director had a conversation with the agent and basically said, well, this model was submitted for my job. You know, you can't, please don't change this on us now. Like in the future, if you'd like not to submit this model, that's okay. If you're now changing the financial parameters under which this model will be submitted, that's okay. But would you please have integrity, considering the fact that we're this far into the process, and honor the rate that this model was submitted under, because I've already sent to the client. And the agent said no. And the agent went on to say that they've already spoken to the model, and the model is aligned with them pulling her off the job, off the possibility of the job, if the client won't pay 18 times what she came in at. Now, mind you, this wasn't a job offer yet. This wasn't an avail. This wasn't a booking. This was a pre-conversation, having had files already sent to the client. And the casting director, to make a long story a little shorter, basically said to the agent, well, listen, I get everything you're saying. And if the model is truly aligned, if the model truly feels the same way you do and is willing to forego this job based on everything you've said, I just want to hear it from her too. And then we'll take her out and I'll deal with it with my client. And the agent refused to allow that conversation to happen. And this put the casting director in a very difficult position. And by the way, I'm telling this story about someone else, but I have been here a few times in my career, and I will potentially tell you another story about that. So this could have just as easily happened to me, because it has happened to me. So casting director asked the agent, please, would you just include the model? Let me know that the model agrees. Let me talk to the model myself, just so I make sure that nothing comes back to bite me in the butt. And the agent said, absolutely not. I am her agent. I speak on her behalf. This is our agreement. This is what I'm here for. This is the controversial part, people. And P.S., the casting director came to find out within 24 hours that the model was never aware of the conversation, was never aware of the agent passing on the opportunity for her. And not that it's completely relevant, because I do think that when people are at certain places in their careers, new agreements need to be created. Well, new agreements always need to be created. But if someone's, let's call them an A-list actor or a thoroughly in-demand, frequently working performer, they should have an agreement with their agent or manager, whatever that agreement is, and honor it. However, when someone's just starting out in this business, which is definitely the case with this particular model, this model just wanted opportunities, and this was no shady opportunity. I mean, this was a big deal opportunity. It just didn't have a big price tag attached to it, which again, another subject for another time. I get it. And it's always your prerogative what you want to work for and what you don't, which goes back to the communication thing on all levels. However, what we're talking about here is integrity and communication. So casting director finds out that model didn't know, model never was told, which is what she suspected to begin with, which is what usually happens to begin with. Agents tell us they talk to talent and they don't, and or managers, and it didn't go pretty from there. So let's go back for a minute and let's talk about this particular situation and how the agent claimed this happened, okay? Because I want to make sure you as performers, and again, I'm specifically talking in this moment about performers being submitted through casting networks, but almost every casting submission application has something that can reflect this, which is an overscale submission note. Now on casting networks, your agent or manager, when they submit you for our projects, has the ability to check off a box that has a $sign. And just before I continue, someone give me a wave and just let me know you can still hear me. You guys still hear me? Nothing's moving, so I have no idea, but I'm gonna hope you can still hear me. Okay. The little counter at the top keeps changing. It says live, so all right, I see a heart. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks for letting me know you can hear me. Okay. I promise I won't do that every live. It's just, I want to make sure that this is getting across and captured. Okay. So, this $sign. When a performer is being submitted, and they and or their representation has agreed they're at a certain place in their career where they warrant a certain price tag for a job of a certain kind, they check off this $sign. What that means to us as casting directors is, let's just say I put out a job and it's a union commercial and I say it's paying scale. And I get a submission from an actor, but there's a $sign. I know immediately that I can expect a negotiation between my client and the representative for the talent or the talent directly, because that's implicit in that relationship, that they're not coming in to audition for me based on my advertised SAG scale rate. I have to know going in, if I bring them in, they want something else. So as a casting director, I immediately get in touch with that representative and say, okay, what are we talking about? What's the $sign for? And sometimes they say, oh, they want double scale, or, they need a minimum, or they want the session fee not applied to the first. And these are all terms, if you don't know what they are, we can talk about them another time, or you can research them. But these are all negotiation points on any job. Same thing goes for a non-union job or a print job. Now, print is not under the jurisdiction of SAG-AFTRA, so it has its own world. And so in this case, going back to the story I told, we're talking about a non-SAG-AFTRA job, we're talking about a print job, but same thing. Put out a print job saying the pay rate is $5,000, and you see a model submitted with a $sign. I already know before I bring that model in, I need to have a conversation. Well, what's the $sign? What is it that you're going to be asking for, or potentially asking for, should my client want to move forward with this model? That way I'm protecting everybody. I'm not wasting a model's time having them come in for a job that they're not going to want to do if it's only paying $5,000. I'm not wasting an agent's time for the same reason. Most importantly though, as a casting director, my job is to service and protect my client. That is who hires me. That's who rehires me. That's who pays my bills. So if I'm not protecting my client, I'm not doing my job. So if I send a talent in front of my client who was submitted on a $5,000 job, but actually wants 18 times that in order to accept the job, and I don't tell them going in, I'm not doing my job, and this can have a majorly negative impact on me as a casting director, and I may not get hired again. I mean, this is a liability issue at some level. And so that's what that submission, that $sign is for. If that $sign or the equivalent of it on any site, or if there is no $sign box to check, if there's not a note that says, is submitting but want to discuss, or submitting but won't agree to the the number of edits you're saying you're going to pay for, whatever it is, if they don't indicate initially that there's negotiation that needs to take place, I'm assuming that you're going through the process based on the job parameters I've advertised being good, being agreeable. That does not mean negotiation can't take place later. It's always a person's prerogative, but think about the situation in reverse. Everyone has a certain amount of something they're dealing with that they're prepared for and budgeted for. And so if the client knows there's no way in heck they can pay 18 times or even 8 times the money they originally allotted for this role, then that's not a job for this model, that's not a job for this agent, and that's not a job that this client can have this model for. And so we should have the ability sooner than later to skip over this person and move on, saying, here are the people you can have for this job. So this goes back to the original point I wanted to make about communication. Now, it's interesting, when I posted that I was going to go live today on this topic, some people started commenting on my page about their opinion, which was awesome. And as you can see, there are a lot of opinions. The thing is that this answer is not an answer that has a should. There's no one way to answer this question. Should an agent or manager pass on a job on behalf of their client before they talk to the client about it? The place where this becomes incredibly relevant is in you as a performer, your initial and ongoing conversations with your representation. And this starts from your very first meeting about possibly signing with an agent or a manager. So I wanted to share with you 2 of my other favorite quotes. One is that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. My other favorite quote about this is, assumptions are the termites of relationships. The first quote, by the way, was George Bernard Shaw. The second quote was Henry Winkler, apparently. Based on the internet, I haven't fully researched it. Might have been someone before Henry Winkler. But the Fonz says, assumptions are the termites of relationships, and I couldn't agree more. So, performers, this is an important topic to approach with your representatives from the get-go. You need to sit down and talk with them before you sign about how they approach situations like this. How do they intend to submit you? Do they intend to tell you about every job offer, or don't they? Do you want them to, but they don't agree that they should? Do you not want them to, but they feel it's important? This is like if you were dating someone, this is like one of those do you want kids questions with relationships, with agent, manager, talent relationships, because this can lead to big issues later. And you don't want to fall in love with someone and realize that you have this major disagreement. So you need to discuss it from the outset. And I think that you also need to be willing mutually to walk away and know that it's not a match with representation if you're not aligned, and make an agreement to reassess. If you become a series regular, or as you move up the ranks, do you still want your agent or manager to present you with AFI projects? Do you not? AFI just as an example. But there's no right answer. The right answer, however, is a clear understanding. And I personally think that the place that we get into such hot water and it becomes so sticky and has no integrity and doesn't create love because there's no communication is when we have situations like this and an agent essentially lies and then gets caught in the lie, and it could have completely been avoided. And for me, that also comes down to a certain level of distrust, or a feeling like the agent thinks they know better than the talent. And again, if the talent has agreed that the agent knows better, cool. But unless you've had that discussion, you're operating on top of assumptions, and assumptions will erode any relationship and eventually destroy it. I promise you. So if you're already in a representation relationship, this is a great conversation to have and discuss and make sure you're on the same page and hear each other, and then make a new agreement. And agents and managers, this is for you now. As a casting director, and I don't know if I speak on behalf of all of us, but I know I speak on behalf of at least a few of us. If you make a mistake, because we all do, and you submit an actor who should have been submitted over scale, and you've already had us get to a certain point in our job, we're not saying that you need to go against something that you fundamentally feel is important and right in the development of your client and their career trajectory. All we're asking for is fully transparent communication so that we can, with integrity, tell our client if we need to pull someone out of the running. So let me tell you another story. This is my story now, true story, same subject. Years ago, and we're talking about probably 18 years ago, I was casting a pretty big music video for a really big music video director who was very well known around Hollywood and also very well allied around Hollywood. And we were casting this job, and this music video director asked me to approach a certain young starlet, someone who had a big following, a lot of notoriety, big film credits, about the lead role in the music video. And I thought it was a great idea. I thought she was a good fit. And so I said I would do that. And I went to her agents and I presented the possibility of the opportunity. And in this case, he was offering her the job. He basically said, I just want to have a meeting with her if she's willing to do it. They call it offer pending meeting is the term that we've used, meaning it's your job as a performer. The director just wants to sit down and talk to you about it and make sure you both feel good about it. So you don't have to audition, but you don't want to take a job and then realize that you don't align with the vision, or you guys don't get along or whatever. So that was the type of offer this was. And it came with a nice enough price tag. And I brought it to the agent, and the agent flat out said, this starlet is not interested in music video offers. Just not interested. Thank you, but no thank you. Move on. And I said to the agent, are you sure? Do you at least want to talk to her? This music video director's a really big deal. This band's a really big deal. This job is super cool. Here's the creative. Like, are you sure? And the agent was like, yep, I'm sure. She's just not entertaining these type of jobs right now. Okay, I got it. So I had the unpleasant job of going back to my client and saying, I'm sorry. I spoke to her agent and they said she's not interested in doing music videos right now. Who else is on your wish list? Well, just so happened, because this is how this works, this is how our industry works, this director ended up at a dinner party with this starlet the following Saturday night. And I got a call Monday morning from a very angry director, basically calling me a liar, saying he was at a dinner table with this starlet and he had a nice chat with her. And then at one point said, so, I understand that you turned down the video opportunity that my casting director brought you. And guess what she said? What music video opportunity? I never even heard about this. What do you mean? And so it's not a good thing when, as a casting director, I'm put in the position of not being able to be effective on behalf of my client. And the only reason that was not effective is that the agent wasn't willing to bring it to the starlet. Now, if the starlet had been brought the project and said, I'm not interested in doing music videos, yeah, okay, maybe she still would have lied. She would have lied at the dinner table, maybe, and said like, I didn't get that conversation. But chances are not. Because also in my experience, and I have a lot of stories like this, I won't tell them right now, when I've gone to talent directly because I've got mutual friends, or I run into them first in a social setting and I say, hey, I'm going to be sending this project over to your agent on Monday. I just want to put it on your radar. 9 times out of 10, that talent has done the project. Why? Because performers want to work. And barring the project being something that they don't like, don't agree with, or has a conflict with something they're already doing, or they creatively aren't aligned, performers want to perform. And I think there's a real breakdown at times with that. So I think I've made this whole, I think I've shared on this topic clearly enough. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I really wanted to say about it. I guess just before I hop off, I want to know if you have any questions on this topic that I can answer, or if there's something you want me to further illuminate on. And I just want to say I haven't seen the little thing at the bottom crawl like it normally does. So I have no idea if I'm just not seeing something that you are saying. So does anyone have a question? Instagram Live, are you working? I have a funny feeling this isn't working. Let me just see something really quick here. Just wondering if there's an issue. Well, it's not showing me anything, so I see hearts popping up. That's good. Maybe none of you have any questions. I see lots of hearts. That's nice. Thank you. Those feel nice. All right. If you don't have any questions, then I hope this has been valuable. Again, what I just want you to take away is that love is a function of communication, and it's an extremely important place to have open and clear communication between talent, representatives, and casting. We are all on the same side, and any good casting director would never want to force or manipulate a talent into taking a job that doesn't feel like something they're truly happy to do. However, I think we all know that not every job is about money. And at least I hope so. And if it is just about money, that's okay. But then you need to know that. And it's a time for talent and agents and casting directors to get further on the same page on this subject, and have a talk with your agent or manager about that overscale box, and whether they use it and why. And let me just go on record and say, most talent should not be submitted over scale ever. It should be an exceptional submission based on the project and the talent and the circumstances. Because the other thing I wanted to say is, a lot of time, if someone's submitted over scale and we know that our client just can't do that, we just won't bring you in. So overscale needs to be wisely used, and it's usually used for a more veteran or established performer so that we can know there's a negotiation to take place. So I hope this was helpful. And if you want me to do lives on other topics, please send me your questions. Thanks for joining me today. Bye for now.